Hi everyone, this is James Millington. In this video, I'm going to talk through creating a personal access token to enable you to work between your local computer and GitHub using Git. A personal access token is like a password that allows you to log in and remotely access and interact with repositories on GitHub from your local machine. So you can kind of think about it like a password. We'll see some of the customizations we can do with that, though. It's more secure than a password. There's different levels that you can get into this, but we do need some base level. It's one of the kind of trickiest things of getting started with Git and GitHub, but hopefully this will help you. This video will help you to get started. So to create a personal access token, we log into GitHub, and we're here on our profile page. If you click on your icon, your avatar in the top right, and come down to settings, and then we scroll down in settings to the bottom left here, developer settings, and you can see here we've got personal access tokens. There are actually two different types. They're developing a new type called fine-grained tokens. We're just going to stick with the classic for now as an introductory level. So click on tokens classic, and then we are going to generate a new token. It's going to give you the option again of whether you want to go for the new beta fine-grained or the classic. Just make sure you click classic here. Okay, so now we can create our personal access token. We can actually have multiple personal access tokens that have different scope, different levels of access, different security levels, if you like. And so in the top here, we should describe what is this token for. I'm just going to make a general token here, one that I can use for most things that I would want to on GitHub. This is probably what you want to do the first time you create a personal access token. So we're going to call this general so we can keep track of that. Then we need to decide our expiration. How long do we want this personal access token to last? You could set it to no expiration, so this will carry on forever, but that's the least secure. If you want to be really secure, you can set for 7 days. I generally work on a 30-day, and then I create a new token every 30 days. I'm going to create this one for 7 days, though, because I'm making this for training purposes, and ultimately I'm going to delete this. So we provide a brief description of what this token's for, decide on the expiration, and then we select the scope, the level of security that we want for this personal access token. I suggest a general kind of level. We want repo, so that's full control of private repositories. We want workflow, and we want user. So that's the kind of general level we want. You can investigate all these other options as you go on, as you become more advanced. So we've created our personal access token. This is it here, this big long string. You should get a notification in your email telling you that you've just created a new token. That's so that if somebody else tries to create a new token on your account, you'll get a notification that they've done that, and you can try and shut things down. Look how long this token is. We're not going to be able to remember this. We need to save this somewhere safe. And I recommend using a password manager. If you haven't got a password manager, you should probably start thinking about getting one for your daily life, for your work in general. You should have a different password for every website you log into, every application you log into, and they should be long passwords so that they're hard to crack. That's difficult to remember, all these different passwords, and that's what password manager is for. It keeps track of your passwords. And there's a whole variety out there. Some are free, some you pay for. I've used LastPass in the past. That's good. Now I'm using Proton Pass. So some you can pay for. There's free ones as well. Get yourself a password manager. It's going to help you stay secure online. So I'm going to save this in my password manager. So this is an old access token, so I'm going to save it in here. I'm going to remind myself that this is my general one. I'm going to save that. Cool. So that's now saved. So I can now access this from my password manager, and I'll need this when I first when I start interacting with the repositories using this token. So given this is the first time, we've created the token now online, but we now need to save that password, that personal access token, on our own computer, so that when we use Git on our own computer, the credentials will be saved and we'll be able to log in seamlessly from our local computers to access the online repository. So an easy way to do that is to start working with a kind of a test repository. So let's come into my repositories. You'll see here I've created a test repository, a private one. I'm going to clone this, and when I first clone this repository, when I first start working with it, I will be prompted to enter my personal access token for the first time, and then that should get saved on my computer, and that will last for as long as the token lasts for. So in this case, I've made one for 7 days. So for 7 days, I can interact and work, and I won't have to type in the new password, the new personal access token each time. It will just remember it. When the personal access token expires, I'll have to create a new one and update this. So I'll show you how to work through this. So I'm on Windows. I'm going to open the terminal. I'm on Windows 11. I've set this up so that my terminal can have different types of terminal if you like. You can open Git Bash. So if you're on Windows 10 and your terminal doesn't allow this, you want to open Git Bash. You should actually be able to do this in any terminal. Similar on Mac, you should be able to just open up terminal and start to do what I'm doing here. So let's just check where I am. I'm in my user space. Here are the different directories I can see. So let's just clone this repository into my downloads for simplicity. So I'm going to change to downloads, change directory, and I'm going to clone. I'm going to git clone, and I need the URL of the repository that I'm going to clone. So I come back to GitHub, into my test repository, come up to the code. We're using HTTPS, and we copy this URL here. Come back to Git Bash and paste this in here. So that on Windows, that's Shift and Insert. Paste in that URL and hit Enter. It's going to clone into the Downloads folder. Hopefully, yes, here I go. I'm being prompted to sign in. If you've set Git up as shown in my other videos, you've set your username and you've set your email, it should already know your username and your email. What it's asking for here is a password or some other sort of credential. And we've just created a personal access token. And so we click on this here, token, and we're going to paste our personal access token in there. So I'm going to come back to my password manager. I'm going to copy this. There's a different way I could copy it, but I'm going to do it that way so that you don't see some of my stuff. And I'm going to paste the token in there and hit sign in. If everything's gone well, we should now be able to go back to Git Bash and see that everything has worked properly here. And so we've cloned the test repository, receiving the objects 3 of 3 done. So now I should be able to go to my, if I look at the contents of my downloads folder, we can see here's this directory, test.repo, and I can change into that directory. I can see what the contents of that, and it's just got a README file in, which is just this README file right here. Great, so that's worked. I've been able to download, clone my repository. Because it was the first time I'd done it with a new personal access token, I was prompted to enter that personal access token. And that personal access token is now saved and should persist on my computer for as long as the token is valid. When it comes to updating it, when it expires, you're going to have to create a new token, and you will be re-prompted. Next time you try and do a clone, a push, or a pull, you will get that pop-up box, and you'll need to paste in the new personal access token. Now, there may be times when you want to change the personal access token before it expires. How do we do that? Right, well, that's a little bit trickier, but I won't explain it here, but I'll highlight how you would go about that. On Windows, you would use what's called the credential manager. So if you hit the start button and start typing credential manager, it should open up, hopefully. Open. Come on. Why are you not opening? Ah, that's strange. Why is that not opening? Is it already open somewhere? Yes, it's already open. That's why it's not popping up. Okay, so if I refresh this, right, great. So it was already open and I've just refreshed it. Notice now we have this Git credential. So basically that password where we pasted it into that box is now this is where it's been saved. It's been saved in the Windows Credential Manager. And so that's why we don't have to keep entering it every time we use Git now. Git will just go and look in the Credential Manager here and find this. We can, so you can see, here's my username. So it knows my username and password. That's actually the personal access token. You could edit this here. You could also remove it, and then you'd have to set it all up again. What if there's no Git personal access token credential in here, you should get that pop-up box when you try and do something in Git asking you to enter your personal access token. Yeah, that's how it should work. If it doesn't, well, maybe you could come in here and add it manually. You can add these things manually. That's on Windows. On Mac, it's not called Credential Manager. It's called Keychain. So it's OS X Keychain. I don't use Mac, so I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it will be a similar sort of thing, and you can go and read online about how to use that. Okay, great. So that was how to create personal access token in GitHub to use with Git.